Hey everybody, welcome to Bald Guy Money. About 1 year ago, I went through some pretty rigorous calculations to give you all my best estimate on how much silver it took to be a top silver stacker, both worldwide and in the United States. Since then, a lot of new people have started stacking silver, and some part of newly mined silver has been converted into bullion, which is why we're making this video today, because we are doing a 2023 update. And in this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be answering the question once again: how much silver do you need to be in the top 20%, 5%, and 1% of silver stackers? Just before we get into those revised numbers, here is a reminder of what it took to be top 20%, 5%, and 1% worldwide in 2022, with a range of about 406 to 541 troy ounces needed to put you in the top 1% worldwide. Compare that to a range of 2,050 to 2,732 troy ounces of silver to be a top 1% stacker in the United States in 2022. And finally, we ended that two-part series with what it took to be in the top 0.1%, both internationally and in the USA. And that was a range of 1,746 to 2,326 troy ounces at the global level, a comparable amount to what it takes to be a top 1% stacker in the USA, and from 10,045 to 13,387 ounces of silver to be a top 0.1% stacker in the United States. An incredible accomplishment that a handful of you said that you've actually achieved. So congratulations to all of you out there who have achieved that. Now, for this video, apart from answering the key questions we need to answer to update our top stacker numbers, I will also be covering what these updated numbers mean for silver stackers, how much silver you need to buy to keep pace, and how much silver you need to buy to race ahead and reach higher ownership tiers. I have also consulted the artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT to understand what the opinion of the internet is on this topic. And I say the opinion of the internet since many of you have astutely noticed that ChatGPT usually produces answers based on internet consensus. So those are two additional bits of information I want to pass on to you all in this video. We're going to get right into this. I just want to remind you all to please leave a like in support of this channel and content like this, if you want to, of course, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. It really helps me out. Thank you very much. So these are the numbers we established in last year's video. 295.5 million silver bullion stackers, owners, holders, whatever you want to call them. These are people who have some form of silver bullion, whether it's a few collector's coins, a stack of 1 kilogram bars, or just an eagle they inherited from their grandfather. And it's important we count each and every one of them, because with deficits on silver becoming the norm, and I'll say more on that topic in a moment, every ounce is quite literally precious. And we have to be thorough in making sure it is all counted to get an accurate number. So throw your personal definitions aside for this video, because doing it any other way won't work, in my opinion. And I start with mentioning that number because it's the first number we have to adjust to update our top stacker data. And since there are no official statistics kept on how many people own silver, I consulted Wall Street Silver on Reddit, and what I did was I compared Wall Street Silver growth versus total Reddit growth and came to the conclusion that it was fair to assume the number of total silver owners grew by about 2.1% over the last year, which is a lot. That's 6 million people. And I assume this was driven not only by inflation and more exposure to the topic from channels like mine, but mainly driven by the bank crisis and a desire for people to be able to protect their wealth in a way that doesn't have any counterparty risk. On the flip side of that, I also assumed that a death rate of 8 owners per 1,000 applied, which is the average global death rate, and that gives us a new number of 299.2 million global silver owners, or 3.8% of the world's population. The next part was to update the amount of silver bullion held in private hands, and this is where I consulted the Silver Institute. According to their figures, a whopping 309 million ounces of physical silver will be added to investment portfolios this year, a number similar to 2022 and nearly double what people were buying in the years from 2017 to 2019. And as you can see in this table, high demand for physical investment silver paired with highs in industrial demand is putting a major strain on the supply side of silver. We are currently in our 5th straight year of silver deficits, meaning we are using more than we are mining. And even mainstream news outlets like Reuters are starting to pick up on this story. And I know this isn't the point of the video, but I wanted to highlight this fact to support my decision to include small level owners because, as I said a moment ago, every ounce is literally going to be precious one day. Now, of that 309 million ounces marked for physical investment purposes, about a third of that will go into ETFs and bank vaults. Another 2/3 will enter private hands. And it's that 2/3 we are going to use for this calculation because if you remember back to my first video, I exclude silver held by countries and corporations because, well, it doesn't make much sense to compare ourselves to JP Morgan Bank. So that leaves us with a net of about 200 million troy ounces to add to our total pool of silver, giving us a new range starting at 3.2 billion ounces and at the higher end, 4.2 billion ounces. And if you're new to the channel, what that means is, in total, there are anywhere from 3.2 billion ounces of silver up to 4.2 billion ounces of silver in private hands, leaving about 11 to 14 troy ounces of silver per owner, which is not a heck of a lot and really illustrates that it doesn't take much to get ahead in this game. Now that we have our new base assumptions, I want to get right into the results because there are some important changes that have taken place since the last time I did this analysis, and it deserves some attention. Starting with the top 20% of silver owners. Now, not much has changed for this group since the last time I did this analysis. They still hold about 80% of the silver bullion supply and only needed to stack 2 troy ounces of silver over the past year to maintain their status as a top 20% stacker, which is a 4 to 5% increase versus the 2022 level. But once we reach the top 5%, this is where we really start to see changes, with the amount to qualify for this group increasing by 8 to 10% versus 2022. So that's double the increase needed to remain in the top 20%. And it's driven by 2 things. The first thing is that over the last year, the concentration of wealth has continued to evolve, and not in a way that's good for the economy. As governments around the world continue to try to fix the messes they've created, their actions are exacerbating or worsening the polarization between the wealthy and the poor. On top of that, some of these actions, namely the rapid increase of interest rates in the United States, which triggered the collapse of a couple large banks, have resulted in more distrust of the current financial system, giving a group that already had a healthy distrust of that system more reasons to store their wealth in precious metals outside of that system. And that means you now need from 145 up to 191 ounces of silver to qualify for the top 5% of stackers, an increase of 13 to 15 ounces versus 2022. But that polarization of wealth is no more evident than when we take a look at the evolution of the top 1% over the last year. A group whose overall share of wealth has increased to 46% of global wealth today versus 40% in past wealth pyramids, resulting in an approximate 20% growth in estimated silver holdings for that group, making the amount of silver you needed to stack over the last year around 100 ounces to maintain that top 1% status. Which is a lot more than I personally expected, but when I see stories like this one, showing that interest in metals has motivated some people to put significant amounts of their wealth into physical gold and silver, I suppose none of us should be too surprised that the top 1% has grown their holdings significantly more than the rest of the pyramid. Now, I know these numbers can ignite a bit of controversy in the stacker community. In fact, a lot of my videos ignite controversy in the stacker community, even though I never intend them to. So I thought it would be best on this topic to consult another source, one that I have consulted in a couple of other videos in the past, and that's the artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT. And when I asked ChatGPT how much silver it thinks is needed to be in the top 1% of silver owners based on its vast internet database, this is what it said. Given this context, a revised estimate for being in the top 1% of silver bullion owners could be lower range, owning several hundred to a few thousand ounces of silver bullion might put you in the top 1% of silver bullion owners. Upper range, owning several thousand to potentially tens of thousands of ounces of silver bullion could potentially place you within the top 1% of silver bullion owners. And overall, I have to say, I am quite satisfied with that answer, as I think it tends to support my numbers, which are a fine target for those of you hoping to increase your stack relative to other people. That said, I'd love to know what you think about this in the comments. Share only what you feel comfortable sharing, and don't be afraid to give me your honest but respectful opinions. Now on to the viewer question for this video, and since we're on the topic of silver, I wanted to answer this one because, well, we all love a good price prediction, don't we? I think we do. And this question comes from Wes, and Wes asked, where do you see silver at price-wise per ounce as the high for the next bull run? And I really love this question because my opinion on this topic hasn't changed much over the last 2 years, and it's all based on this data. 2 years ago, I said that something is going to break when it comes to the continuous deficits we are running on silver supply. And you can see those deficits highlighted here in this table in the red frame. And what I said then is that based on increasing demand and dwindling reserves, we should see a crunch happen by 2026, where I expect the price of silver to reach $60 per troy ounce. Now, I know that number will disappoint some of you out there, and I will be the first to admit that that number could be a little bit higher than the estimate that I'm giving. Feel free to give me your 2026 price target in the comments section. But I know there are a lot of people sitting on $50 silver who purchased it in this area here and are looking to get out of it. And something us stackers seldomly acknowledge is that supply held by stackers is constantly changing hands. And my assumption is that the $60 price level will create an incentive for people to cash out as much as 400 million ounces of privately held silver. And I also think that will put pressure on the price, bringing it back down again, but to higher levels than we're at right now, likely a sustained run above $30 per ounce. And that's only over the next few years, mind you, and assuming supply and demand trends remain stable. And as a person who likes to underpromise and overdeliver, I am more than happy to be proven wrong on this price prediction. Especially as we are starting to see Chinese demand for silver grow right now. Exactly as I expected it to in 2023, and which I also expect to drive the price of silver above the $30 level in the first half of 2024. So thanks again, Wes, for your question. I hope that answers it. Now, for those of you who missed me the last couple weeks, don't forget that I never miss a video on Patreon, a place where I also give price targets, provide stacking tools, issue price alerts, and you also get direct access to me and the Bald Guy Discord chat. Joining my Patreon not only helps keep this channel sponsor free, but it links you up with a community that will help you in your stacking journey and help you make more informed investing decisions based on reason rather than decisions based on fear. Link to join is in the description and the pinned comment, and there will also be some big news regarding my Patreon coming next week. The patrons already know because they already have access to the next tool that I've released, so look out for more information on that in next week's YouTube video. With that said, I wish you all a happy weekend ahead. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other, everybody. Until the next time we see each other, goodbye.